Dov, it's good to
And
see
you're
you.
on. We're rolling.
We're on. We're on. We're live. We're live on tape.
Great. Great. I love the countdown. I didn't know the countdown would happen. I felt like I was in quiz show or something,
Exactly.
like a 1950s
Rolling.
radio show.
Exactly. So I love the topic that you picked.
You're going to have to remind me what it is. Do you have what I
I will
wrote
read
down
it.
there?
I
Okay,
will
read
read
it.
your
So,
words. Let's see. All right. Where are your words? I just had them up here. Da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Oh, first thought, best thought. Yeah. I was thinking blame, personal responsibility, and owning projections.
that is a good topic.
It is a good topic.
That's a good topic.
First thought, best thought, as Neil Young
Yeah,
said, as you quoted. So,
that's right.
so, so, launch us in. Take us. Like, what have you been ruminating about on this topic?
Yeah, I just noticed it's such a huge part of my relational life, how much I go to blame and how much blame doesn't work. And I notice a lot how my relational life is ruled by my projections, which come from the past.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we call it transference in therapy, but yeah, I'm just so aware now, as I haven't been in my younger days, about how my reality is created through my projection
Mm-hmm.
onto other people. And then that's connected to blame. You're doing this to me.
Mm-hmm.
This is who you are. This is what's happening. This is reality. And I try to sell people on it. I try to sell my girlfriend on it. You're an asshole doing this thing to me, you know. And it seems so real. And I've taken it for granted my whole life that my reality is real. And I have to convince the people I'm in relationship with that this is real. And I think through becoming a therapist and through the work, I think a big feature of the work, especially the somatic work we do, for whatever reason, maybe it's the path work element. There's a lot of this theme in the path work about personal responsibility, owning your demands, owning your projections. And I think that's the goal of therapy in a way. Or there's many, many goals of therapy. One of them is to pull back your projections and see how you're creating your reality through your transference, own your blame, be able to come into real relationship and hear and see that the way you're forming reality isn't the other person's reality. I
Beautiful.
know
I
this
love the
may
way you put
seem,
that.
I feel like this may be obvious to other people,
Oh, I
maybe
don't think it
people
is.
who are less traumatized, I feel like I have a lot of trauma, which is, I think, part of the wounded healer thing, which is why I've become a therapist, I think is, the journey of healing my own baggage. But I wonder if in people that have, safe, healthy environments to grow up in, if they don't have this issue as much. But I don't know. I'm curious what you think.
I think it's very nearly universal.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's universal, and certainly some of it has to do with um, uh, the trauma that we may have experienced, big T trauma, little t trauma that we may have experienced. But as we know, both through our personal experience and through our training, we know that, well, what was it in that one class we had together? Everybody's in trauma mind, and how could it be otherwise?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Right. Yeah.
So
Anina
I think it's
Mandalay said
relatively
that.
universal, this phenomenon. I see it all over the place. And it's not just in casual acquaintance. I see it in my clients. They bring into the sessions, my husband did this, my wife did that, and and then I say, okay, but kind of drive into the personal responsibility, and they have such a strong resistance to it. And I've got to believe that
Right.
you're seeing that with your clients as well.
Um, yeah, I would think so. I guess it hasn't been what I've been dealing with my clients currently. I think I see it a lot on the world stage as well in
Yeah.
politics.
Yeah.
It's
Well, politics,
definitely
oh
all
yeah.
blame, right? All blame and all projections, and trying to make your projections stick on the other person,
Right.
not seeing their complex humanity, not seeing their good intentions, not seeing
Yeah.
um,
And
how
even if it
different would that
weren't
be?
I'm sorry, what?
I was just wondering how different it would be if political discourse like took into account the innate goodness of your opponent, right?
It's interesting. I once ran for office, Dove, back in 1988.
No way.
Yeah,
That's
I was
amazing.
33 years old. I ran for county supervisor in the county, Pima County, which is where Tucson, Arizona is. And and my opponent was a moderate. I have always been a moderate, slightly different parts of the spectrum. He and I. He was a very popular state senator, and I was a young consultant, healthcare consultant, and we liked each other. And we respected each other. I thought he had great ideas. He thought I had
Mm.
great ideas. Our
Wow.
debates were civil. Um, Now, the demographics of the election were such that and I was a newcomer on the scene, and he was a veteran. He already had a strong constituency and a lot of funding, so I got my butt kicked. Uh, but I learned a lot. So it does happen. I'm old
Right.
enough to remember it happening. I'm
Right.
old enough to remember debates where politicians didn't accuse each other of lying.
Well, now it's not just that they're accusing each other of lying, they're trying to convince everyone the other person is fundamentally evil,
That's right.
right?
That's right. Yeah.
I'm good and you're bad. And I think
Right.
that's what happens for me relationally,
Yeah.
where it's like, you're bad. Look at what you did to me. Blame, blame, blame.
Right.
Judgment, judgment, judgment. Demand you be a certain way for me. And if you're not, then I can just say, go into this, I'm the good guy, you're the bad guy, you know?
Yeah.
And I think
The
it's happening in the Middle East too. I mean, it's not just like Netanyahu. I watched his UN speech, and the whole thing is like good and evil. This is about good and evil. They're evil and we're good. It's like, really? Is that really true? It
right.
just seems so young to me and
Yeah.
so emotionally immature. I'm like, this is the leader of a state with
Right.
military might that is caught in this pattern, and the consequences are
Right.
life and death, thousands of people dying, starving, destruction. it's
Yeah.
it's it's mind-boggling to me.
And this is one of the reasons I think it's almost universal. It not only comes to us, we not only develop these tendencies to project our wounds on other people through our own personal trauma, large and small, but our world feeds it to us as the norm. You've
Right.
mentioned politics. I'll mention popular culture. I'm reminded of Imogen Heap. Do you know her?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Wonderful, for our viewers, wonderful British singer songwriter, was with the group Frou Frou and then started a solo career that's been going on for years, 20 years at least. Um, she has a lyric in one of her songs. I feel I feel bad, and that's your fault. And that to me summarizes it.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Like
I feel
that,
bad and it's your
I
fault.
haven't heard a more succinct description of that kind of projection than I feel bad and it's your fault.
So I have a desire to like go granular with this. Like, can we
Yeah,
talk about how this really works?
yeah. Let's
Like very specifically.
take this
Do you,
wherever you want to take it, Duff.
well, I was gonna maybe use myself, but I wonder if you have any examples. Like, how does this function? Okay, so something. I mean, I was thinking about this recently this week, and now you're here. There's an example between us. I
Sure,
wonder if like you feel comfortable in
of
talking
course.
about.
And let's set the context for it. You and I were classmates for 4 years at the Institute of Core Energetics.
That's right. That's right.
And a little more context. The Institute of Core Energetics, you not only study the field. It's not like college, you know. You not only study the field, you're actually the subject. Each of us is the subject,
That's right.
and our
That's right.
internal and external dynamics are the subject. And you do this as a cohort. And so, 4 years together, we we had 20. No, we had 40 group sessions together,
That's right. That's
and
right.
all sorts of interpersonal dynamics and intrapersonal dynamics come up there. So we kind of know each other's insides, and sometimes we bump up against each other. So that's the context I want to set. So bring it on. Let's talk about us.
Well, yeah, and to say more about the context, even though we're students, and what I'm going to talk about happened in year 4, so we should be advanced students of this work, which to me is centered around personal responsibility, right? Which is
Yeah.
centered around owning your stuff, processing, owning, working through, and integrating. I know that that's part of the name of your practice,
Mm-hmm.
integral becoming, right? So integrating yourself as a whole person, as opposed to many different split off parts. Here's my
Right.
rage, and I don't know anything about it. It's way in the background and comes out all weird, and I don't know. And it's like we're trying to go through and own all these things, even though that's the context of what we're doing. Still in year 4, I still got caught in this situation where, okay, so I don't know how detailed I want to get, but you had done or said something to me in the group that triggered me.
Yeah.
I was furious. I was hurt. I was enraged. And in that moment, I can't understand the difference between the stuff that's happening inside of me, my rage, my discomfort, my hurt, my pain. That's a part of my being that's happening inside me. I can't tell the difference between that and what you did.
Right. Right.
And so the way this works, I think, is story. It works on the level of mind. So I have a story. I use story to blame you. It's not fair what you did. It wasn't right. It was attacking me in this certain way. And then I have judgment and criticism. Oh, Ronen is this, Ronen is that. What a jerk, all of that stuff.
Yeah.
Right. Because I do not want to feel that way. Right. I do not want to feel the way I feel. And I think underneath it all, for me, a lot of my triggers have to do with value. So I feel like if I'm not valued, right? And so what happened was it touched the place in me where I don't feel valued.
Mm.
And then you're doing that to me. You're not valuing me. But I'm only vulnerable there because deep down inside, I believe I have no value.
Mm-hmm.
I think if deep down inside I understood my full value, I'd be like, oh, all right, well, whatever. That's just Ronan's thing and it's fine.
Yeah.
But because I'm so vulnerable there, because I believe I have no value, I'm so hurt. The hurt goes to rage and anger. I will never feel like this again. I won't let you make me feel this way. I'm going to punish you. I'm going to stick this blame on you. I want to maybe humiliate you, or I want to, I'm being extreme about it, but I want justice.
Right.
I want justice. I'm not going to stop feeling this way until you own that you did something wrong. You did
Right.
something bad to make me feel this way. And it was unfair and unjust, So then we go to process this. And even though I'm a 4th-year student, I'm like, okay, I had to wait 2 months. I sat with it for 2 months
That's right.
to the next process group, which was the next whole module, like 2 months away. Finally, Friday night, I'm like, I need to process something, and I want to go. I want to dump my story on you and try to sell you in the group like you did something wrong and it's not fair and it's not right. And luckily, we had a very good process group leader in that moment, and he wouldn't let me go there, right? He wouldn't
Mhm.
let it become relational. He wouldn't let it be like, Ronen, why did you? Or like, yeah, how does it feel, Ronen? The doves, yeah, did that. It wasn't about negotiating or counseling, moderating something between us. The process group leader took me to, where does that go for you? What comes up for you? What about this hurt inside you? Who does Ronen become to you?
Mhm.
You know,
Yeah.
who hurt you? What is the story for you?
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, I don't want to go. I don't want to do that. That's very unsatisfying. I don't want it to take the responsibility for this
And
shit
yet you
happening
did.
inside me, this shitstorm of rage, hurt,
And yet
discomfort.
somehow you did, Dov.
Well, I trusted the group leader and was like, oh, fuck, I know that's why I'm here, you know? And so then you were very gracious to stand in front of me and hold my projection without complaint or defense and let me process through the rage I had at being mistreated as a young person, which I'm bringing to every situation in life. And let me bring it up, let me bring it out, let me fully express the rage and the pain that's there.
Mhm.
And then once I did that, you know, the magic of this work is the projection, the transference I had on you, where I was pinning this blame and judgment to you, it sort of dissipated, disintegrated. And I saw Ronen,
Mhm.
Ronen,
And,
the man that I love and the man that I respect and the man that I've been on this journey with, the man that actually does love me and care about me,
oh
you know,
yeah,
which I could not see at all.
right.
You know, it's very interesting how much of a like a hallucination, an entrancement, like a possession that this blame, judgment thing has on, well, me. I don't want to talk about other people, but I know for me, when I'm really in blame, you know, my whole reality crystallizes around it and I can't see you. I can't see you for who you really are.
Right. I think hallucination is exactly right. A worldview is generated by all the mechanisms that generate these
Right.
projections, and all we see is the worldview. We don't see the reality behind the worldview. And I think you said something that really deeply resonated with me, and that was because there's a piece of me that believes I am not valuable.
Right.
There's a Without that, it's just absurdity. You know, whatever's going on out there has no impact. I heard it put
Exactly. Exactly.
in a different context, not a projection context, but the truth of this showed up once. There was a man who used to lead seminars, in-person seminars in Ken Wilber's Integral Institute. His name was
Mm.
Fred Kaufman. And he tells the story. He had a young child at the time. Tells the story of his son going downstairs and refusing to go down into the basement because he believed that there were horrible monsters down there. And he caught himself trying to say, there's nothing to worry about. But then he realized that if he, as his son did, believed that there were monsters in the basement, he wouldn't want to go there either. And then he went on with this. He said, this notion within me that it is true, this thing that is causing me to be reactive, can be illustrated by this. He said, if you were to say to me, this is Fred Kaufman speaking, if you were to say to me, Fred, you are the ugliest woman I've ever seen,
Hmm. Mm-hmm.
I would laugh about it
Right.
because
Yeah.
I'm not a
That's good.
woman. There's not
That's very good.
there's not an iota within me that thinks that that has anything to do with me. What you said,
Right.
um, and that illustrated it flawlessly to me. We believe there's a piece of us, even if our exterior says, "No, I'm a confident, powerful man in the world."
Well, the more
If
it
there's a
does, right?
what's that?
The more it does, we build our defense around
Oh,
that
that's right.
wound.
That's right. Exactly. And we tuck it behind all this armoring, a
Exactly.
good core
Yeah.
energetics term, but tuck it behind our armoring. And it's in literally in our bodies. It's not just
Mm-hmm.
in our brains. And that's an important piece about the work you and I do. It's in our bodies that this is true. This thing that we're interacting with, this thing that you're bad and I'm okay, and you did this to me. We actually, there's a young part of us that knows it to be true because it was true when we were 4
Mm-hmm.
or 6, and that's how we know what's true. It's in our bodies. So I think that's really important, that these are truth beliefs that get lodged in our energetic system, in our subconscious, and in our bodies.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That this work that you and I do with ourselves, with our own practitioners, and with our clients as practitioners, that has to do with, as our facilitator did with you, um, kind of declining to buy into that nonsense,
Sure. Yeah.
and to call us to that self responsibility so that we can
Sure.
actually own those projections.
Amen. And how much harder to do it? How much harder in life is it to do? And
Mm-hmm.
that's what I'm marveling at recently, The person you love is right in front of you and they did something that has hurt you so much.
Yeah.
Do they become your enemy?
Right.
Do you justify punishing them? Do you try
Right.
to convince them about how bad they are and how wrong they are? Or do
Yeah.
you do what our facilitator did to yourself
Right.
and say, you're the person I love. I know you love me and care about me. This is where this is taking me. This is me. This is
Right.
my stuff.
And
I
that
want
takes
to,
courage
yeah, yeah. It
in
takes
relationship.
courage. I think also one thing to bring up more theory from core energetics in our work is negative pleasure, right? I think
Oh
there's
yeah,
a
expand on
lot.
that.
Well, I
That's a
think
juicy one.
it's a juicy one. Yeah. I think there's a lot of negative pleasure in punishing someone, right? In making in this making them bad and you good.
Say, for our non-core audience, say more about negative pleasure. Flesh that out.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting concept. I think I could know more about it, but for me it's sort of like, okay, in my understanding, positive pleasure, the pleasure of being Dove, the pleasure of being me, the pleasure of being alive and having all my energy and my joy and letting my essence flow through my body is blocked. It's stifled. I'm judged, I'm ridiculed, I'm humiliated, I'm abused, in all of our trauma. But we still need pleasure. I mean, core energetics and Reichian work, which is the roots of what we do, is based in pleasure. And the idea is the point of life. And what's the point of life? What's the whole point? Is the point of life is to experience pleasure, the pleasure of being alive. And when that's blocked from me, the positive pleasure of my life, I need to get it somehow. And so there's a lot of negative pleasure. It's like picking a scab. It hurts, but it feels kind of good. It feels good to punish you. It feels good. This is connected to our lower self.
Yeah.
Our lower self is an energetic part of ourself that sort of, when we're blocked in our positive expression, we hold a lot of our resentment and anger and our desire to separate, to not be hurt there. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, in order, so I feed my life force energy into this negative pleasure, which is, you hurt me, well, now I'll hurt you and it'll feel so good.
Hmm.
And I'll hurt you by withdrawing and being like, I don't care, whatever. I don't call you back for 3 days. And I'm like, yeah,
Yeah.
you're squirming over there. It feels so good. Or in the moment,
Yeah,
to
sure.
act all like I'm so disgusted with you and hurt with you. And I'm like, you're bad and wrong and ugh. And look at what you did. There's so much negative pleasure in playing out the punishment.
And therapeutically, the way we can work with negative pleasure, and there are a lot of ways to do it, and I'd be curious to hear how your thoughts on this. One of the ways that comes up in my work, both with individuals and in retreats, is is by energizing it, like
Mm-hmm.
taking it, making it big.
Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
and
Yeah.
so we, as a means of freeing up that energy. So cube work, we core practitioners tend to have these large cubes, and if we're doing virtual work, it's the mattress in the bedroom, and and having a client hit or kick these cubes and bring all of their projection energy into that creates a kind of pleasure. I can't tell you how much joy. Well, I don't need to tell you how much joy that can be. There can be. I mean, you and I have seen each other hit that cube, many
Mm-hmm.
many times in our time
Mm-hmm.
together, and there's a great deal of pleasure in it, particularly if we get to direct it at our our delusional objects. I think the last time I worked on the cube in our fourth year, I had this really glorious time slamming our facilitators, and
Mm-hmm.
oh my God, the pleasure in that. And
Mm-hmm.
the theory behind this, as I understand it, and correct me if you have a different understanding, the theory behind this is that, as you said, the our ability to access authentic pleasure is trapped. Um, um, and we're prevented from going at it. And so we have, when we activate our negative pleasure, like in a conscious way with facilitation in
Mm-hmm.
particular,
Mm-hmm.
we have the opportunity to move that stuck energy that's literally in our bodies
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
so that that armoring dissipates and we get to have access to our authentic pleasure.
Mm-hmm. 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 Yeah. 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 Mm-hmm. Definitely. And I would add that being witnessed is a
Mhm.
big part of it, because it's not just alone. It's not just like, although it's good to do alone, like you know, and there might be, I think I'm feeling into the slight distinction between moving lower self energy and negative pleasure. There might be like a slight
Yeah,
differentiation
I
I'm
think that's
feeling
right.
into, where being witnessed in both cases, but I'm thinking about negative pleasure right now, being witnessed in my admission of my negative pleasure. I think the thing about negative pleasure that keeps it going is that it's secret.
Hmm.
It's like something no one knows. I would never say to anyone. I would never say in a fight, like, yeah, I'm wanting to punish you right now. My whole game is done. Like, if I reveal that, like, it's not like, mm, you know, but in a, especially in a group setting, in somatic work, a lot of it's done group
Right.
settings, right? As we're talking about, to recreate your sort of family dynamics, but to own in front of a group and to be witnessed and to admit, I want to hurt you,
Right.
I want to punish you. It gives me pleasure to twist your arm, you know, releases some of the power it has because it's no longer secret.
Mm,
And you can kind of
beautiful.
reclaim it, because when it's secret, it's separated off. It's like you kind of deeply believe, well, I'm kind of evil because I have this negative pleasure thing, but like I just won't look at it and I'll never admit it to anyone. I won't even admit it to myself.
Hmm.
And I think before I started this work, I don't think I admitted that to myself. I just was like, whoa, where'd that, when it overtakes you, it's sort of like, oh, I guess I'm kind of evil. Well, I won't think about that. you know
Right.
that must have just been some kind of evil possession for him. Like, it's not a part of me. Like, I would
Right.
never, because we have this idealized self-image, another part of core theory, and it's definitely not part of my idealized self-image that I would want to hurt anyone. I'm a nice guy.
You're a
I'm
nice guy.
sweet. I'm the nicest guy in the world. I would never, my girlfriend says, you're trying to hurt me. No, I would never try to hurt you. I would,
What?
me? I'm so nice and sweet to you. How could you say I would want to hurt you? Like, yeah, I did want to hurt you. Yeah, I didn't text you back for that full hour just relishing your writhing and pain.
Squirm, baby, squirm.
Yeah, it's like,
Exactly.
no, I want to hurt people. I want to hurt people because
That's
I'm
there's a
hurt.
beautiful thing that you mentioned about doing it in group and being witnessed too, because I think we keep it secret often because there's shame just waiting. Shame is waiting in the wings. And if people were to know this about me, they would leave me and I would be alone in the world.
Oh, right. Absolutely. Yeah. If you
And
ever
so if
saw
you've got
this.
a well-cultured group where you can do this kind of work. It's one of the reasons I love leading retreats so much is the process of creating a group container that can hold that kind of courageous work, to actually expose negative pleasure, to expose these old things that are kind of demons that are within us, and then have nobody leave. And in fact, if the group is well constructed and they're veterans with each other, still be loved. That's magic. That's magic. And so,
Well, it's,
and we get
yeah.
to do that in group process. We get to do that in retreats, which is why I encourage my clients to check out retreats, mine or other people's clients, so that you can do this work and be seen doing this work.
Yeah. 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 That's part of the magic. That's where the healing happens, in that moment.
Yeah.
That moment where the thing you would never want anyone to see, the thing you're holding back from the world, the thing that you are very sure makes you completely unlovable,
Right.
is seen, and people go, yeah, so I still love you. I don't
And that
care.
can blow up those internal myths that
Exactly.
most of us have running at one time or another. And that is, if you knew me fully, you would hate me and you would leave me. Which is why we have these relationships. I mean, let's get down to relationships here. We have and have been in, I dare say you and I have both been in relationships, God knows I have, where one partner is assessing the other partner, especially early in the relationship, like what kind of person will she want?
Yeah.
And
Oh
then I
my God.
generate an avatar for that.
I'm so good at that.
And then she then, or this partner then generates her avatar because she's doing the same thing, at least in my case. She's looking at me saying, well, what
Lucky
kind
you.
of person do I need to be for this guy
Yeah.
to like me? And so we generate these avatars, and then these avatars get into relationship and they go
Right.
out on dates and they make love and they fall in love, or so they think. The avatars are falling in love with each other, and then they get
Right.
married and they have children, and then at some point, one or both of them wake up to who they actually are and to the existence of this avatar that they've created, and either they work through it or the relationship falls apart. And if they work through it, there's a level of intimacy and excitement and freedom in relationship that they've never known.
Yeah.
And more often than not, they break up.
I love this. I love this. I love this. I love this talk because, yeah, I've experienced this a lot in my life, right? And the word is intimacy, right? It's a way of not having real intimacy, because you'll have a relationship with my avatar, not with me. I don't want to be too close
Right.
because I'm horrible, I'm disgusting, I'm evil, I'm bad. So I need to generate this avatar, and I'll never let you see who I really am. And you know what? I don't want to see who you really are either,
Right.
because I'd rather have a relationship. I have an idea, a fantasy in mind about the perfect kind of woman. I'm straight, so for me, it's a woman, perfect kind of woman. And I don't want to see your flaw. I don't want you to. Don't show me who. Like, I want you to create that avatar. Like,
Exactly.
please. And
Absolutely.
you
And
know
so,
what?
and
I'll
so we
give.
feed them.
Yeah, I'll drop some hints. Hey, I kind of like that. This kind of a thing, right?
Yeah.
And I'll just be pleased as punch if we can maintain this charade, this little
Right.
dance for the rest of our lives. You just be
Right.
who I think I need you to be, and I'll be who you think you need me to be, and like we'll shake hands, and that'll be good,
Right. And
right?
the intimacy is a key point here. I think you're right to highlight it. One Kabbalistic teacher I've studied with puts it this way: every crisis, whether at the personal level or at the global level, is a crisis of intimacy. And I'll stay with the personal level because that's what we're talking about today. Projection, transference, countertransference, all of these projections are intimacy violations.
Mm,
Because I can't be intimate with you and you can't be intimate with me if our authentic selves are hiding behind these avatars.
mm.
But if we take off that costume that is the avatar, it's like a Halloween costume.
Mm,
If we remove that Halloween costume and stand naked with each other as authentic selves, then and only then can we be truly intimate. And
mm,
intimate is bracing. It's like, if we have, particularly if we haven't experienced it before. I mean, there was um, I had a personal crisis around this avatar generation about, when was that? 20 years ago? Yeah, 20 years ago, almost 21 years ago, where I was doing some deep process work of the kind that you and I do in a group setting. And in the middle of it, I saw my mechanism for generating avatars. And it was a men's group, and I had 7 of my closest male friends sitting on the floor around me as I was on the mat and being facilitated. Um, and all of a sudden, I spotted the mechanism of avatar generation, and I realized, oh my God, it's brilliant. I've generated one avatar for my friend Ford, another avatar for my friend
right.
Roger, a different avatar from my friend Gene. Everybody had their own version of me that I was happy to generate. And then I said, and I've got one for my wife.
Yeah,
Oh my God. And
that's
in that
beautiful.
moment of realization, when I spotted the mechanism and saw how brilliant it was, it felt
Mm-hmm,
like he was a step ahead of me. I called him the slippery MFer,
mm-hmm,
because he was so fluid, so fast, and so brilliant at kind of generating what needed to be generated, that I realized that if I didn't do something about that mechanism, I would be alone for the rest of my life. And I was
right. Yeah,
terrified.
of course, you're living behind the wall
Yeah.
of that avatar, of all the avatars. I mean, it's I think it just speaks to the intelligence we have operating in us, that we're able to generate so many and be able to read so many different situations. But it doesn't matter whether it's one or a million. The result is I'm living in a walled off place, alone, isolated.
Right.
I
Right.
send my
And
avatar over the wall for me, and I'm not going to be seen.
right. And I mean, truthfully, these avatars have been useful for us.
Sure, it's of
And they've
course
helped us navigate the world. And I still don them, but with consciousness now.
right.
So I
Yeah,
have a whole
the
world
avatar
where I'm
itself is not bad, of
right.
course.
No, it's the unconsciousness about it.
Yeah, exactly.
and it's
Yeah,
and it's and if we're unconscious about it, then we bring it into relationships where it's inappropriate.
right.
Now, if I'm in a corporate setting and I'm being a corporate consultant, as I have for a big chunk of my adult life, um, I have a particular persona that is for their benefit, for my client's benefit. I mean, I by this point, after decades of working with healthcare corporations and the leaders in that, I realized that they need and they're paying for a particular relationship with me and with my team.
Mhm. Right.
And if I don't deliver that, it's almost a breach of contract.
Well, that's fascinating.
Yeah, isn't it? Isn't it? But it used to be that avatar was unconscious and automatic.
Well, and when it's unconscious and automatic, we identify with it.
Yeah,
We think that's who we are.
that's right. That's right. It's a radical case of mistaken identity.
Right, right. And then when that avatar is insulted, right?
That's right. Then we got
How
nothing to fall back on if we
how
don't actually know
hurt,
who we are.
right? How hurt can I become? I mean, I think about Jesus all the time. You know, that
Yeah.
one thing he said on the cross. I'm not a Bible scholar, but you know, that you can't hurt me. You know, you can't. This is not who I really am. You can do whatever
Right.
you want to this body. This is not who I am. You can't
Right.
hurt me. I think about that a lot because I'm so vulnerable to insult and hurt, right? Because I don't know who I really am. I
One
love
of the
that.
great popular teachers of what you're talking about, Dov, is Jim Carrey. Have you seen any of his
Yeah,
post Man on
yeah,
the Moon videos?
yeah, yeah. It's great.
Yeah, he says in one recent one I watched, he said Jim Carrey is gone. Actually, there never was a Jim Carrey.
Yeah, so good.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I love where he's taken his work. But the thing that came to me when you were speaking is we another I'm slipping on all kinds of core theory here with images, you know, which are
Hmm.
basically beliefs about ourselves and the world and our relationship to the world. The image that's underlying this projection, this what did you call avatar? What was the word you used?
Avatar
Avatar
generator.
generating system
Yeah.
is I'm not allowed to be me.
Right. Right.
If you don't believe deep down somewhere that I'm not allowed to just be Ronen, be Tom,
Right. Right.
then I don't need to generate any. I can just show up and be like, hello, this is me right now. This
Right.
is just who I am. I don't need to edit myself, manipulate myself, create like. So there must be a belief that it's not okay to be me. It's not okay.
Right. And
It
we get
will,
these messages even in the most loving homes.
yeah.
So it's not just the homes where that we would recognize as saying, well, that's either abuse or neglect or something, but that's not the way it should be. Even in the best of homes, think about what a normal childhood in such a home, in a loving home, would be.
Hmm, hmm.
Well, Tommy, you're going to need to be on your
Is that what
best
they called
behavior
you,
when you
by the
go.
way? Did you get
I was
called
a Tommy for
Tommy?
the first six
Okay.
years of my life.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Go on.
Until I put my foot down and said, "No, I'm Tom."
Right. Right.
No, Tommy is for little boys, and I'm a big boy now.
Right.
So, well, Tommy, here's what a good boy does, or here is the way you need to behave. We get this message
Right.
first
Don't be
from our
you.
parents. Hmm?
Don't be you. Don't be you.
Right? Don't be you.
You is kind of bad.
You will be rejected. You will be
Yeah, it's not
rejected.
good. It's not good to be you.
Yeah, yeah.
It's good to be like this. Nice
There's a
boy.
version of you that will be accepted,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
we'll
yeah.
help you get there. And
But
we
we
get it
don't
from our
understand
parents.
version of me. We understand
Right.
just not me. I have
Right.
to be something else.
Right. That's right. At that level, we only know that we cannot. It's not safe to be me.
Yeah, it's not safe to follow my impulses. Not safe to relax.
Right.
Relax my organism and let what's happening inside of me flow out.
Right. Right.
I have to start constricting, editing, putting on a mask, being someone I'm not, being something I'm not, pleasing you, following the rules, dominating you, submitting to you. I'm
Yeah.
kind of going through our five structures, our
Right.
five character patterns here.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's it. That's it. And it comes, God, it comes as I sit here talking with you, I realize it comes in so many different channels. So many different channels. There's a whole conversation about gender.
Mm-hmm.
Um, like I work, the vast majority of my clients are women, and they continually tell me I was not allowed to be angry.
Mm-hmm.
I was not allowed to be angry. Good girls aren't angry.
Yeah.
And we have, I was not allowed to be strong.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then I think men in many households have similar, but not the same messages. Here's what it is to be a man. You can't cry. Big boys don't cry. There's a whole 10cc song where the kind of the repeated refrain is big boys don't cry, big boys don't cry. But we heard that before that group came out with that song.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, and there are just a million messages that come at every one of us. And of course, if you're in the LGBTQ uh, plus world, you've got a whole different set of messages. You
Mm-hmm.
can't be you.
Right.
And they're, you mentioned politics earlier. They're right there. They're writing laws about this. You
Mm-hmm.
don't get to be you. But I love men. Nope, sorry.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
No, you're defective.
Electroshock therapy for you.
Yeah, yeah. Let's get you into some therapy, and certainly we won't let you have this job, this job, this job, and this job because you're
Mm-hmm.
dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
a thousand different ways this happens to, and I think it happens to every one of us. And the truly free people are the folks who actually know who we are and have relaxed into that and are untouchable by
Yeah,
these
untouchable.
messages.
It's interesting. I'm just thinking about the great sacrifice that it takes, right? And the great risk that it takes to be yourself,
Mm.
right? This is why I love rock and roll so much, because it's almost like this little corner of the world where it's sort of allowed, right? I was just
In fact,
watching
it's
that.
rewarded.
It's rewarded, right?
Yeah.
It's so amazing, you know? And it shows, I think I kind of go both ways on this, right? On one hand, I tell people and I tell myself, the world wants the real you. Don't withhold that, like they're dying for it. That's what the universe wants. That's what people want. People are so attracted to you, and they want it, they crave it, they need it. The world needs the you that's real and authentic. Whatever it is that you'll do in the world, whatever relationships you have, whatever conversation, whatever happens is what's needed, when it's coming from the real you. And then on the other hand, you're probably going to piss people off at the same time because it's very offensive. People don't want, I'm like, and then yes, there's some people that are like, you're not allowed to be the real you. I'm
Mhm.
following the rules. You need to follow the rules, and I'll persecute you for being the real you. And to me,
Right.
like, that's sort of the Jesus story. Like, or Martin Luther King, you let your truth flow out too much and they'll cut you down, they'll
Right.
chop your head off. They'll assassinate you. So it's a risk. It's scary. But in somehow, although, John Lennon was killed, obviously, but, in rock and roll, I was watching, I don't know, in the States, so much of the documentary is about this, but in the State, do you know the Tragically Hip? I feel like you would really love them.
Oh, I don't know them. No.
Oh my God, it's so funny. It's like they're like U2 in Canada. They're like Oasis. They're like the Beatles in Canada.
Oh,
They're
wow.
like the most famous beloved band. The lead singer, his whole thing was this is why I love clown work as an actor, because the essence of clown work is to be demasked, like, the real clown work from France, I'm not talking about birthday clown work, but like, allowing your essence energy to just flow in wonderment in an unedited stream from the universe right through your body without any cleverness or manipulation or maskiness, you
Mm.
know. And it's like, this is what this lead singer did, on stage, and his voice, the way he used himself was so raw and pure, and people just fucking loved it.
Right. And I think on the question of will the world receive you or not, the world will not receive you with unanimity.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
We know that for sure.
Right.
So then, what we're called into when that happens, I think what we're called into is the realization that your job is not to be, your job is not to educate them up
Mm-hmm,
so that they can handle your authenticity. It may be your job just to step away. And
mm-hmm,
that you were talking about, there is a sacrifice involved. Not only do we need to let go of our own addictions, and I think of these avatars as addictive.
interesting.
Very
Right.
comfortable. They give us pleasure, as you've said. Um, so we have to give up. The Sufis talk about dying before you die. We
Yeah.
we have to essentially go, and of course the psychedelic shamans talk about
Right.
the
Right.
ego death.
Right.
Um, so not only do we have to go through that kind of sacrifice, the giving up of these um, false selves that we have so nurtured us,
Mm-hmm,
um,
mm-hmm.
but we also may have to give up friends. We may have to give up family members.
Right. That's a big one. I mean, my family certainly doesn't want me to be the real me,
Yeah,
you know, and
yeah,
and and that's a hard thing for me to say and admit. It's very painful for me. I came from a very um, uh, um, traumatized, dark, um, heavy home, with a lot of cruelty, and part of that cruelty is the negative pleasure people got from restricting the real self of the other person. It's almost like there's a power you can have over someone, especially a child. It's so, my therapist said this all the time, so easy to harm a child. So easy.
hmm
It's the easiest thing in the world to do. You look at this helpless thing that wants to bring their energy out, and they're completely beholden to you, your God. And you just say, ew, what the hell is wrong with you? Why did you just say that? I'm so disgusted with you right now. So
yeah,
disappointed. Ugh. And like, you know, shattering begins inside,
right. Yeah,
humiliation, shame. I'll never be that way. It's like, and how people take pleasure in altering the natural flow of a person. So yeah, I think you're right. That is something we have to contend with in our world, that people are
yeah.
going to take pleasure from keeping you locked, keeping you
And
down.
I think that actually most of this that we've talked about today is rooted in fear.
Mm-hmm.
I think we will be when we become authentic and live our authentic selves out loud. We will scare people. We do scare people. I know we do. And so there's a piece of this. We kind of want to make it safe, and so then we don the avatar. No, it's still me. It's still me.
Right.
When I was in LifeSpring 30 years ago, they would warn us at the end of the trainings. They would say, "Now you're a little different than you were on Wednesday when you came in, and the people in your lives may not like this
Oh my
version
God,
of
it's so
you,
true. It's so true. Yeah.
and they will try to guide you back into who they used to know."
And who,
And
yeah, who they want you to be.
yeah,
Right. Right.
yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Dov, I think we've covered we've made a good start in these 55 minutes. I think
Mm-hmm.
we've really I have loved this conversation with you, but I think let's just keep it bite size.
Great.
Is there anything you want to close with before we move away? Is there anything left unsaid on this? 'Cause I don't want to rush you or cut you off, but I am sensitive to people's attention spans and the fact that we're approaching an hour.
Um, Yeah, you know, uh, hmm, there's lots to say. There's lots to explore.
Yeah. Well, then let's talk some more.
Okay.
We could write a book.
Yes, you can write many books about these things. Yeah, yeah. I guess yeah, just in closing, I don't know. I feel like I want to wrap it up in a neat little bow, but maybe that's not
I think thank you
to
and
do.
goodbye. And I hit the
Yeah.
stop recording button. I think that's a good way to wrap it up.
Okay. Thank you for having me. Thank you for this
Thank you.
conversation.